Welcome back everyone, and thank you for tuning into another episode of Mr. Chef Lab. We really loved doing that first episode for you and wanted to get straight into doing another one. We've been experimenting with different types of crustaceans this time around, and we really wanted to do Moreton Bay bugs, but they are hard to find in Canberra as we are in inland city. The next best thing are lobster tails. So we've got these lobster tails. They're Tasmanian lobster tails. Depending on where you live, you might be able to get something like this at your local seafood store or grocer. If you don't, experiment with different types of crustaceans. It should all work out the same. With the lobster, I'm going to pair it with a Japanese miso coleslaw, and it's not as vinegary, not as tangy, it's quite light, and it pairs with the lobster meat really well. Let's get straight into it and cut up our carrots and cabbage. Once you've got the carrots and cabbage cut up into these thin julienne slices, we are going to move on to cutting up our seaweed. The seaweed is going to help give it that Japanese flavour and balance out the miso paste later on. So roll it up into something like this. It's going to make it easier to cut. Once your seaweed is all cut up, we can actually place that straight into the bowl. And we might get our cabbage and carrot in there as well, because it's all going to mix together at some point. And with that, we're going to add our fresh parsley. Now, how much parsley is up to you, depending on how much of the parsley flavour you like. I do like quite a lot of parsley because it balances out the tangy flavours from the vinegar. And next, we're going to add a juice of half a lime. Once that lime juice is in, the next is the white vinegar. I'm not a huge fan of how salty and tangy white vinegar can be, so I'm going to go in with maybe just a teaspoon of it. It's up to you how much you want to put in there though. And to balance out the vinegar, we are going to add a good tablespoon of sugar. And to that, we are going to add 3 tablespoons of Kewpie Mayo. And to season, a bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Give that a thorough mix. If you want to, you can use your hands if you like. You know what, I'm going to use my hands, I think. Once you've got the coleslaw all done, we're going to set it aside in the fridge so it keeps its crunch and its freshness. And move on to preparing the lobster. So the lobster is a little bit different to prepare. If you haven't done a lobster tail before, there's a couple of things you need to do. First of all is wash the lobster. Second of all is, if I turn these around, just get yourself a pair of crustacean scissors or your kitchen scissors and cut off all these little legs here. Once you've cleaned up all the little lobster legs, if you want to call them, we're going to cut the lobster shell in half now, and this is where it's quite important. You want to bring your scissors just above where the meat is and just under the shell here, right in the center, and start cutting straight up the back of the lobster like that and finish off where that tail starts. Once you've done this, you're going to open up from the top here, the lobster, and slowly go up the tail like this. It's important not to damage the tail too much, because later on we are going to be using the tail for decoration. Now, once you've got something that looks like this, you can have a bit of lobster meat hanging out the front. Just get your fingers, put it straight under here. With your other hand, open up the 2 sides of the shell and fingers under and start pulling. And the meat should pop out like that. Don't worry if it's a little bit messy this time around because we are going to be cutting them up. Once the lobsters are out of their shells, I've given them a clean under the tap again to get any of the remaining shells off, and we're going to cut them up into bite-sized pieces. Now once that's done, you can put that aside and get ready to create the batter. Okay, to create the batter, we are going to add about half a cup of corn flour, half a cup of plain flour, a teaspoon of garlic powder, teaspoon of baking powder, and a teaspoon of onion powder. And then we are going to just mix that up with our hands. Once you've got that all mixed up, let's grab our lobster again and just place it. And once you've got all the lobsters in there, or pieces of lobster, just give it a good mix around. And shake off any excess flour before putting them aside. Once the lobster is all coated up in our batter and the oil is ready to go, we can start placing the lobster in the oil. Now I've got a deep fryer. If you don't have a deep fryer at home, just use a large pot. Just make sure you're moving it around and don't let the lobster stick to the bottom of the pot. I'm using peanut oil because peanut oil can heat up at a high temperature without burning, and I've set this deep fryer to 180 degrees. So let's start placing our lobster into the bucket and get it ready for frying. And straight into the oil we go. While that lobster is frying away, we're going to grab our coleslaw and get ready to plate it up. Get yourself a really nice looking plate. These ones here were given to me by my auntie Mika, so thank you so much. And we'll grab our tongs. Grab a good handful of that and just place it to one corner of the plate here. Maybe a little bit more. So it's been about 2 to 3 minutes. You don't want to do it any longer than that. It is a lobster and it's the tail, so it is quite a delicate meat. We're going to just let these sit here and let the oil drain off. That's the kind of color you're looking for. So these have been sitting here and draining for the last minute or so. We're just going to place them somewhere else. Okay, straight back into the oil now. So the reason that we had these shells, tails still sitting here is because they're going to go in the oil next, and they're going to be a part of our plating up and decoration. So they go back into the basket. And these will go straight into the oil for approximately 2 to 3 minutes, maybe less. As soon as they turn orange, you can take them out. Okay, so these have been here for less than a minute now, and this is the color that they should turn into, bright orange. They're ready to go. What we'll do is just let them drain for a couple of seconds and start plating up. Start placing our lobster onto the plate. So be creative, just put it on there however you like it. I like to dress the lobster straight over those tails. Look how amazing this looks. It's absolutely beautiful. I think we need to add a couple of sauces onto that to get it going. Now, first of all, I've got just a basic Kewpie Mayo and Sriracha, which I'm just going to mix around in here. That can go right there. Second off, everybody loves a little bit of sweet chili sauce. Might just place that there. And the third one is Miso Paste. Now, if you don't know what Miso Paste is, it is fermented soybeans. This one's got a little bit of a mushroomy flavour to it as well. And with that, I'm going to add a teaspoon of soy sauce. And just muddle that up in there. It's ready to go. there you have it. There's my lobster popcorn with Japanese miso salad. I think it's time to taste. I'm gonna go in without any sauces first. That is amazing. Now the reason I didn't add too much salt or pepper to the batter of this is because the lobster meat is sweet within itself. It doesn't need too much seasoning. It's up to you if you want to add salt right at the end, but oh, that's beautiful. Really, really sweet. The seaweed in that coleslaw completely changes it. It tastes like it's a Japanese coleslaw, and paired with the lobster, they just go hand in hand. I hope you enjoyed that and give it a go at home, see how you go. If you'd like me to recreate one of your favorites, message me on Facebook or Instagram. I'm always up to trying and experimenting new recipes. Please like, subscribe and share my YouTube page, and see you next time.